Hi, welcome back, everybody. We are the True Crime and Wine Couple. I know I was going to screw that up. The True Crime and Wine Couple. I'm Pete. This is Mary. Today we're going to be discussing Gypsy Rose Blanchard, now known as Gypsy Rose Anderson, because she did get married while she was in prison, right?
Yes, she did. I have more details about it, too.
Good. Okay. And as you know, every time we do an episode, we are going to be drinking a bottle. Well, I'm not going to drink a bottle, but we are going to open a bottle.
You might drink a bottle of wine.
Yes, we were going to open a bottle of wine. And today's wine comes from Stone Farm Cellars and Vineyards. They are in Veracruz, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of, it's sort of like between Allentown and Bethlehem in Pennsylvania. We were there, maybe a year ago?
Less than a year
ago.
It was
beautiful.
In the fall.
Yeah, it was like they had a big barn. It was beautiful. We went upstairs. They had music. It was nice. So we did get a bottle of Pinot Grigio, so we'll be opening that today and see if we remember.
So that must be imported because normally they're Pinot Grigio.
No, actually, yeah.
They made it there?
Well, no, it was, let's see, on the back, it was bottled, it was bottled in Ohio, so that really doesn't help us much, but I don't know.
Apparently Ohio and Italy have the same conditions for growing grapes.
Or they just got their grapes from somewhere else.
That was a joke. I don't think the conditions in Ohio are anything like the conditions in Italy.
Probably not, no. All right, there you go.
Thank you.
And if I remember correctly, this was very good.
Very dry and not fruit forward. Not a lot of fruit, but dry.
No, it's delicious. All right. So as I said today,
last week's wins in my opinion, but he thinks this one's better. Okay.
Yes, definitely. All right, so I will let Mary take it away about Gypsy Rose.
Okay, well, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, when she was born, was named Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and she was born July 27th, 1991. Her parents separated shortly thereafter, and she was raised by her mother, Claudine, known as Dee Dee. Throughout Gypsy's life, Claudine claimed that Gypsy had a lot of different ailments. I will name a few now: leukemia, asthma, hearing and visual impairments. She claimed she had intellectual disabilities, muscular dystrophy, and chromosomal disorders. After Hurricane Katrina, the family moved into a Habitat for Humanity house after living in a shelter for a short time in Missouri. Throughout her life, Gypsy was abused both physically and medically by her mother. Her mother has been known, this is not my diagnosis, but it has been reported that her mother suffers from factitious disorder imposed on another, previously called Munchausen by proxy syndrome. Gypsy's mother got off on the attention of Gypsy having many medical issues, many medical problems. She lied about her age because she didn't want Gypsy to have any independence. After Katrina, Dee Dee claimed that Gypsy's medical records and birth certificate had been destroyed, so Gypsy didn't know her name. He's shaking his head because we watched the act together quite a ways back,
yes. And
now it's all coming back to him. Okay. In 2011, Gypsy tried to escape. She met up with a guy at what I believe was a sci-fi convention, and her mother caught her, and then after that she tied her up and threatened her. In 2012, Gypsy met a man named Nicholas Godejan. He lived in Wisconsin. She met him online. Nicholas apparently suffered from dissociative identity disorder, which many in the non-psychology community know as multiple personality disorder. And he was also on the autism spectrum. In June, Nicholas went to Missouri, and Gypsy, first in 2015, I went ahead. In 2015, Nicholas went to Missouri to meet Gypsy, and they hooked up. In June,
in a bathroom stall somewhere, right? Wasn't it like in either a movie theater or a gas station?
Yes, I was trying to get around that, but thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, because we're on YouTube. Yeah, they hooked up in a bathroom stall. Thank you, Peter, for the details. Right? Yeah.
Absolutely no problem. My pleasure.
Later, in June of that year, Nicholas went to Missouri, and Gypsy supplied him with what I would call a murder kit. You can call it what you want. It was gloves, duct tape, and a knife. She also convinced Nicholas to kill her mother, and while she waited in the bathroom with her hands over her ears, Nicholas killed her mom by stabbing her 17 times. After her mom was dead, her mother did not survive. She was 48 at the time. Her mother did not survive. Afterwards, Nicholas and Gypsy had sex, took $4,000 in cash, and fled. 5 days later, Gypsy posted on Facebook that B is dead. And that's how she got caught, because they traced the IP address and they found where Nicholas and Gypsy were. On June 15th, Gypsy was arrested. July the next year, she went to trial. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, and she got 10 years in prison, and she was just released earlier this week. In November of 2018, Nicholas went to trial. He was found guilty of first-degree murder and use of a weapon, something with a weapons charge, and he was sentenced to life without parole. On June 27th of 2022, Gypsy married Ryan Scott Anderson, a special education teacher, and I'm going to show Pete something right now that you might have seen, but I want to see his reaction to this. So here we go.
Yes, I have to wear glasses to see anything.
It was on, wait, hold on. I'm going to just put in Gypsy Rose and husband. I don't want to take too much time with this, but he needs to see this picture. Okay, so here's the husband. He looks exactly like the mother.
Yes, he does.
It's pretty creepy, right?
That is extremely creepy, yes.
Okay, so.
But that sort of goes back to
my speculation would be that there's some mommy issues still left over, but that's just my speculation and my own opinion.
Yeah, that goes into the psychology part of it.
That goes into the
Definitely,
psychology
yeah.
part. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You're in prison, but women in prison have a lot of options for men to marry usually, especially a celebrity like her.
Women?
Yes,
it works the other way too?
Yes.
I know the men do.
Men usually more. Well,
Yeah.
like look at Brian Koberger. Brian Koberger is a stud now. He went from being, basically what I would consider an incel to, being a stud in prison. So that is the story. So now Gypsy Rose is going to become an influencer. She already has millions of followers, I believe, on Insta. I'm sure she's doing TikTok too now. And that is her goal. She wants to become an influencer, and she wants to speak about factitious disorder imposed upon another to draw attention to the problem.
And I believe she has a book coming out.
And she has a book. Yes, and that I think that's a Missouri thing that she was able to have that book, because not everybody can do that. You can't usually profit off your crime.
No, I know there's a lot of.
It usually the money goes to the victims. Yeah, obviously it can't go to Claudine because she's gone. So.
And I think this is where we sort of diverge.
This is where we diverge.
Yes, greatly.
Okay, so Pete's going to give you his opinion on what he thinks the deal is.
Yes, I believe that she never should have been found guilty in the first place. I believe it was a form of self-defense. She was manipulated her whole life. She really didn't, she didn't know what was up. She didn't know the history of her life. She was lied to continuously. She didn't know how old she was. She was obviously, there was some sort of mental stuff going on there, even beyond, I believe, the manipulation that the mother was doing. But she never had a shot. And as she got older, she realized that everything her mother was telling her was probably a lie. But she couldn't verify that because every time she turned around, it sort of confirmed what the mother was telling her. When the police were called, or social services were called, nothing was done. So it's backing up the mother's claim that they're going to think that you are mentally disabled and they're not going to believe what you say. The doctors never backed her up, even though there was at least one doctor who said that he suspected the man, this, whatever that was called, that he suspected that.
Munchausen by proxy, because at the time that is what it was called.
And he never turned him in.
That, right.
So everything that happened to her as she was growing up sort of backed up what the mother was saying to her. So she sort of got put into a corner, and the only way that she saw out was by her mother's demise. Now, one can sort of question her means of doing it. Okay, so if that was her feeling, why didn't she just do it herself? Why did she involve this other dude? That's a whole other topic. I feel bad for the dude. However, I don't believe that he should have been found not guilty. I believe he got the appropriate sentence. I believe that he was convicted, that he should have been convicted, and that's a whole other thing that we can get into. But in terms of Gypsy Rose, initially, I don't think she should have been convicted in the first place. And the fact that the state of Missouri said, okay, well, we're going to throw you this bone and only sentence you to 10 years because of the circumstances is ridiculous.
And that is true. Missouri did say they were giving her a gift.
Yes, which is ridiculous. The gift should have been, we're not going to convict you because you were through hell your whole entire life. That's where I stand. And in terms of the book, because of the circumstances I just laid out, I have absolutely no problem with her writing a book and profiting from it, because I don't think she should have ever been found guilty in the first place. Now, that does not apply to a lot of other cases where we know that the circumstances were that they were convicted, that they should have been convicted, that they were evil. In those cases, no, they should not be able to profit from their crime. But in this case, I think the crime was against her, not against her mother.
Okay. We differ, and I differ for pretty much, I think, most of America in this. And the reason why I differ, I don't quite know why. Some of my favorite people in the world are on the autism spectrum. As I've said before, I'm a special ed teacher. I'm not going to bring any more into it, but I teach students on the autism spectrum. And I also think that Gypsy was very manipulative. She learned from the best. I'll tell you that. I mean, that her mother taught her well to manipulate. And also, if that poor young man, Nicholas, suffered from dissociative identity disorder, he was not in his right mind as it was. And to me, that obviously Gypsy was suffering from complex PTSD. I mean, that's my opinion, but I'm sure that anybody would corroborate that based on what she'd been through. To me, dissociative identity disorder, if that's what he really has, there's a lot of speculation in the community that it's not even a thing. A lot of psychiatrists and psychologists don't even believe in it. Okay, so I just think that she used her powers of manipulation, manipulated him to commit the crime. He's now stuck in jail for life. I believe that the jury took pity on her, and I believe that his jury was totally creeped out by him because he had some previous charges, unlike Gypsy, who hadn't had any.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Yeah, and I think that I don't think that she shouldn't be out and about now, but I also think that if she is out and about now, in my opinion, and she said she put him up to it, she gave him the materials. There's a lot of other cases. We can do a deep dive into those. Let us know if you'd be interested, where people have, conspired to kill somebody and they acted in, quote, self-defense, as Peter says. And they didn't walk free 10 years later. So to me, she manipulated him. She was as culpable as he was. And the sentence, I believe his sentence should have been 15 with chance of parole. So it was something similar to her. Now, I do not know his whole history. I did not watch the trial, I'll tell you that. So I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I believe that she was as culpable almost as he was, in my opinion, because he also suffered from probably trauma and pathology like Gypsy had. So my opinion is that she was the mastermind and she should have gotten more of a sentence.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Let's take Nicholas out of it.
Okay.
Let's say the dude never was involved in this at all.
And she did it herself?
And she did it herself. What do you think the sentence would have been if she had been the one that stabbed her mother 17 times?
If she did it herself, I believe, I agree with you, it would have been self-defense. Because at the time, her mother was tying her up and holding her hostage. We know that, right?
Right, yes.
So, and I agree with you. She was a prisoner in her home. As long as her mother was alive, Gypsy was a prisoner. I totally agree with you about that. I just have a problem with the insertion of Nicholas into the case and them getting different sentences.
Okay, so are you saying then that essentially her 10-year sentence was not for killing her mother, but for putting Nicholas up to killing her mother?
Well, I don't know. I can't say. I wasn't on the jury. I don't know what the sentence was for. I'm just saying that they're both equally culpable, in my opinion, and they both should have gotten something similar.
Which is where we,
yeah. And that might be because of, like I said, my knowledge of autism spectrum disorder, and my work with people that have special needs. Maybe I have to see it from a different perspective. I don't know. I also work with many of my students have trauma, and they have abuse issues and things like that. And what I see in the general population is that at 18, they're free. In the case of Gypsy, at 18, she wasn't free, because I see a lot of my students that, were having terrible home lives at 18, then they go live with a friend, they go live with, with another family member. But yes, I agree, Gypsy did not have that option.
Right.
So once again, I have a super complex view of the whole thing. As always, nothing is ever black and white. But yes, had she done it alone, I think it should have been self-defense, yes.
Interesting.
Because she was the abuse was terrible. I'm not going to deny any of it. Forcing a girl to live on a feeding tube when she could eat by herself, that's disgusting. Making her go around in a wheelchair, shaving a girl's head, that kills a girl's self-esteem. So everything she did to her was totally horrible, but the problem I have is that she took a vulnerable person and coerced him or manipulated him into doing this, and she's now walking around, Miss Celebrity, millions of followers. Everybody's talking about her. She's all over the media, which is totally fine if she hadn't done what she'd done to coerce Nick, in my opinion.
Okay, then.
Let us know your thoughts. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. We're getting views, but we're not getting the subscribers. We'd love to have the subscribers. We'd love to talk more. We'd love to interact more with you. So like I said, hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment. Leave us criticism. We can only improve with your criticism.
And hit that notification bell so that you get notified every time we upload
because we will be uploading here. There's been a lot of discussion over what will be uploaded and when. So yeah, hit the notification bell.
And definitely leave those comments, because we do want to interact with you.
Yes.
We want to hear your thoughts. And if you have any suggestions on something you might want us to discuss, please let us know.
And subscribe so we could go live. I feel like I'm practically begging, but I can't wait to interact with people on a call-in live. I'm so looking forward to that. So don't take that away from me. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for joining with us, and we will see you next time.